Jason, how was the sort of review meeting on Monday morning after events on Saturday?
Yeah, it was a tough watch, but we got a lot of out of it. Actually, our senior boys did a really good job in driving a little bit of the review in terms of player accountability and that type of thing, which was great. Just so disappointed we let Northampton dictate the terms way too much, and defensively that's the poorest I've seen us in a while, obviously. So look, there were some good learns out of it, but we just got to get on the pitch and just fix a couple of wrongs there.
And the board put out quite a strong statement on Sunday for the fans. I mean, were you consulted about that? I assume you agree with everything that was in it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, consulted with it before it went out and that type of thing. And, it's only right. There's a lot of good people that support this club that, deserve to know what's going on and where we're taking this football club as well in the future to make sure that we don't repeat it.
And in another interview, Laurie mentioned obviously the difficulties of with Danny leaving and you getting the job at quite short notice. I think the phrase was driving somebody else's car. I mean, how hard has it been for you personally to take over that role?
Yeah, it's like in terms of the players and the staff, that hasn't been hard at all because they're a good group and we've got a good staff group. What is difficult when you do an interim role, and particularly so quickly, like literally coming into round one, you're given the keys to it, is where you're wanting to make change, you're making it on the run. And where you see issues and problems that you can fix, it's not like you've got a 6-7 week window of a pre-season or a recruitment plan that you're going in with. So what is difficult is you're doing a lot of things as you're going. Now, some of them will stick, particularly the important ones, but some of the others may fall off because you just don't have time or the traction point to actually generally make that change. So, look, it's a double-edged sword. You've got to know what you're going after, but there's obviously some issues here that we need to fix. Now, some of them we're starting, like we've already started, and we're hoping to get some short-term gain from. But some of the issues here aren't going to be fixed overnight. So that's probably where the patience piece, everyone wants results quickly, don't get me wrong. We don't want to wait 3 years and be putting ourselves back up there. We want to bounce back quickly, but it's important that we get the right steps in, that we're just not looking for quick-term solution where we just keep spinning in this cycle at the moment.
And would you be consulted over any potential recruitment for next season?
Sorry?
Would you be consulted for any potential recruitment for next season?
Yeah, I'm working with our recruitment department with that and how we're wanting to structure the squad. And look, the style of football that we want to play, we've got to make sure that we've got the right players in the right positions to play that way. Because when you say, we want to be attacking and get back to the Quins DNA, what that means is you need a strong set piece and you need to win collision to be able to play that way as well. It's just not, you start passing the football around and all of a sudden we score 50 points. There's actually key areas of the game that we need to be able to play like Quins. So we're certainly working hard on that at the moment.
Yeah, because last time Quins won the Prem title, they obviously had a great scrum and set piece.
Yeah, and if you look at the collision men, like, obviously Lowe, Collier, Marler, Simmons, like there's some pretty handy tight five members there that were senior players, international, at the peak of their powers, and then some pretty handy centres in Marchand and Andre and these boys. So you had the set piece, but you also had the collision men to go with it. So look, we know we're probably a touch behind the 8 ball with that at the moment. We've got some good young prospects coming through that will take a little bit of time, but in terms of the recruitment, this is where we need to be so sharp with what we're chasing to build into the squad to be able to get back to those days.
Thanks, Trace. I'll let the others go.
Thanks, Adam.
I can jump in next if that's okay. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Harry.
Can you hear me all right? I'm having a few Wi-Fi issues today.
Yeah, all good, mate. All good.
You sort of said that the Prem season was over. You made that declaration a little while ago. What does that look like in terms of this competition? Is it a case of, as far as you can, you prioritise this as long as you can, I suppose?
Yeah, and I've probably got to go back on how I worded that. That was poor. After the Sale game, we're still fighting. We want to still make as much of the Prem as we can. And look, if we can get on a run, it's a big ask, but if we can get on a run, can we jag into that 4th, 5th spot, and you never know what might happen, like the last time they won the Prem. But we're certainly wanting to finish as high as we can and get the most out of Prem. In terms of Europe, we had a good chat about it with the boys today. Like, we're sitting 3rd, I think, at the moment in our pool. We've put ourselves into a pretty good position. We're really excited to be back home against the Stormers this week. They're obviously travelling really well this season, but it's a comp that we can get really excited for in terms of, we want to qualify and we want to go as deep as we can.
Do you look at maybe what Northampton did last year, what Harlequins did, I guess, the year before that, where maybe there was that slight shift in emphasis to Europe and they both made deep runs?
100%. I think the Northampton one's really close to us, actually, because how they play and style of squad is something that we're aspiring to be. Obviously, they weren't travelling that well in the Prem, but look, they grabbed that European league by the scruff of the neck and obviously did really well, to make it through to the final. So I think there's a blueprint there for us. Having said that, it's going to take a lot of work. Northampton played some hell of a game of football to get in there against Leinster. So first priority for us is we've got to make sure we do a job this weekend.
One of the problems, I suppose, that people have had with this competition in the last few years is that the South African sides have been quite inconsistent travellers. Sometimes it's a full ball team travelling and really pushing you. Sometimes it is something not resembling that. I don't know what you're expecting from the Stormers this weekend, but maybe they have a little bit more depth developed now to maybe, regardless of what team turns up, really test you in certain areas. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I think when we played them last year, they obviously rested a few boys back home and they had a little bit of injury themselves. So what we're certainly expecting a strong squad this year. If they rest a couple of boys, I think they've got the depth that they're still going to put out a good team. Like, they haven't lost a game this year. So they're not going to have that record with a squad that doesn't have depth.
And just lastly, you mentioned their injuries. On the injury front for you, it was quite a lengthy list of unavailability last week. Is that improved at all for this week, or are you still working broadly with the same group?
No, it won't improve for another couple of weeks, so it's a little bit frustrating at the moment. Hopefully we'll get some boys return La Rochelle into Leicester, but we won't get too many back this week.
Thanks, Jason.
Awesome, thanks, mate.
Hey, Jason. When things aren't going well in the season, what can you change and how much can you change mid-season?
It's a good question. I think what you can't do is fall into the trap of trying to solve too many things, and then you just become a jack of all trades and actually don't fix anything. So we've been really clear on 2 areas of our game that we want to go hard after and see an improvement on. Now, whether that puts us on a run, but it'll certainly put us in good stead in games to be able to do some damage. So we've just got to make sure that we're not scattergunning our approach through this period, and with all good intent we're trying to put out spot fires in different areas. We've just got to make sure that we hone in on a couple of goals for us and we just put all of our chips on the table and go hard after that.
So what are those areas that you'd go after now then?
Oh, look, I think it's been made public, like Laurie spoke about it last night as well. We certainly want to get our attacking game on the park with how we play with tempo. It's a part of our value with our true. Not saying that it has been poor, but look, we want to be picking up bonus points. That's how you climb up the ladders quickly. If you don't quite get a result, if you can pull 1 or 2 bonus points out of games, then all of a sudden you're keeping yourself in the frame, which I think Saracens have done really well. And the other one is just with our relations, is we want to make sure we keep fighting. Particularly what does our defence look like? How much are we prepared to fight? And it's just not about being on the back foot. It's about arresting momentum in the game and making sure that we keep on top. So, look, we're going hard after those 2 things in particular at the moment, and we feel if we can do that and improve, then I think we can get some momentum back.
And in terms of the recruitment and the personnel for next year, where are the club at with that? And obviously, like, if there's uncertainty around the coaching structure for next season, how does that all fit together and where's it at, basically?
Yeah, we've got a plan on what we're wanting and what we need. Obviously, we've signed James Dunn and we've made a couple of re-signings with Chandler and Ben Waghorn and Oscar Beard and these types. So we feel we've done a pretty good job at the moment, because as you said, when I'm in an interim role and what does it look like for next year, particularly for recruitment, that's where you do get the question of what is happening. So I think that shows a lot of belief in the group that those key players are wanting to stay. Dunn's keen to come in. We've got a couple that hopefully we'll announce reasonably soon. But I think we're actually faring pretty well in recruitment considering the year that we've had.
Thanks.
Thanks, mate.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I just wanted to think 65% tackle success in that game at the weekend against Northampton. And last season, your defence was kind of one of the strongest bits, kind of overperformed defence-wise. What do you think is behind that drop-off? Is it tactics, technique, desire? Like, what combination of...
Yeah, it was really disappointing, mate. It was like if you look at our tackle completion, we're actually leading it in the league this year again. Like going into that game, we were top at just over 80%. From that game, we've just dipped to second now, just behind Bristol. So I'd like to think it was more a one-off where, look, we certainly were poor. Like there's no hiding behind it. I think the most disappointing thing was how much we've had to defend this year. Our tackling has actually held up pretty strongly. So I'd like to think that is more of a one-off. But we've certainly addressed it this week. Like that was extremely poor through the middle, out on the edges. And that's where we felt we just let Northampton just dictate terms way too much.
And in terms, you talked about sort of bringing players in. Is this sort of tough period a time where players can sort of play their way out of contention for playing for the club? You kind of make decisions about players on that front.
Yeah, I think with our group, I'd never question them being toxic or just giving up or anything like that. Like they're pushing hard, but the fact of the matter is at our club at the moment, we do have a lot of players on contract. We're looking at how accurate we can get with the spend that we put into the squad to make sure that we're getting most bang for our buck. And the boys are aware of that. That's something that we're looking for in terms of next year is what is the ideal number of contracts, where do we put our spend into and what do we actually need. So that's certainly at the forefront of us at the moment.
Sorry, you talked about the sort of Quinn's DNA. Do you think that sometimes doesn't help the club in some senses in that players come in and there's a loss of focus on the building blocks that need to be in place to play that kind of game?
Yeah, it's a good question because even me coming in new in the last 12 months, that's something that I've had to get my head around. The DNA isn't a hindrance. I've been at big clubs where we've actually struggled to find an identity and what do we actually hang our hat on. So I think our DNA is such a powerful element of our club in terms of what we recruit, how we play, what our fans love us to be. I think what we've got to be careful of is it doesn't mean it's throwing the football around off our goal line and we're going to open teams up. Like I said earlier, you need strong set piece, you need collision men that can actually give you gain line and quick ball, and then all of a sudden then your play and your skill set can come off the back of it. If I look at Bristol, like Bristol get a lot of raps for how they play, which I definitely agree with, but they've got guys that win collision and they've got strong set piece. So I think out of any team in the comp that get plaudits for it, I think they're the classic. I think they've done a great job. Their tight five is strong. They've got good collision men through their midfield. They've got the X-factor players. So I think for us, we just got to make sure we don't confuse Harlequins DNA. Means that we don't have a strong set piece and we don't have good collision.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Mike.
When you talk about the number of contracts, what do you mean by that? Do you mean your squad's too bloated, or it's not big enough, or you've got too many in certain areas? Yeah,
I won't obviously go into the absolute details of it, but in terms of the training model and how we have been training, it requires a certain number of players to be able to function like that week to week with it. Now, one of the changes that we're looking at is potentially reducing the number of contracts without being silly, but there's a lot of spend in the salary cap. We've got to make sure that the money that we're spending with the salary cap, that we're spending it wisely and we're getting good return on the field with it as well.
So when you say reducing the number of contracts, does that mean what? Not you may not necessarily be able to do 15 against 15 in training or something?
No, it's not being that silly with it. You obviously need the right amount of contracts across all positions that if you do get injuries, it's not like you're scrambling, so you don't want to put the detriment of training performance at it. But what we're looking at is can we be more efficient with our contracting?
Right, okay.
Cool.
Hi, Jason.
Sorry, Paul.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Good, thanks. Happy New Year.
You too?
You're talking about contracts there, sort of reducing it, but does that mean that you might be looking to bring in, a couple more big earners, sort of bigger names to, you mentioned sort of winning collisions, to fill the areas where you're lacking in at the moment?
Yeah, I think if you look at our football team, both sides of the ball, the more we can get dominant collision, it's going to set up your attack and your defence. The stronger your set piece is, the more front football you can get, the more you can disrupt opposition. So, look, I don't think that's a secret. I think every team, whether it's in top 14 or the Prem or Super Rugby, understand that go forward is really important. It's one of the bedrocks of rugby for hundreds of years, you know what I mean? So I think if we're looking at that with our football team, we've got some players that can do it, don't get me wrong, but that's certainly an area of our program that we're having a close look at the moment.
Yeah, because you look at, you're at the wrong end, Gloucester, and a sort of common theme with you both is that sort of losing in collision areas, both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and look, we have our moments, like that's why the signing of Chandler was so crucial as a ball carrier and as a hitter for us. If we're on and we're going well, it's not like we're losing collision all the time, but certainly, that's an area of the game that we're looking to improve.
Yeah, because you went all right against Saracens in that area.
Yeah, exactly, and that's partly mindset, and obviously in that game too, you've got your Steph Levises and Will Evans and Finn Baxters and these boys running around who really lead us well, both sides of the ball in that. So it's just making sure that we've probably got the appropriate depth, that if one of those boys is out, we don't drop down too far.
Last year you came in as defence coach, Jason, and made an immediate difference. Last 3 Prem games, 149 points, 23 tries. Does your role as senior coach mean you're not working on defence as much as last season?
No, it's probably something that I've really reflected on, Paul, the last few weeks. Obviously, my workload has increased significantly with this, and that's something that, I said earlier, I've got to make sure my workflow is good, but it's something that I've definitely reflected back on. Not that I've taken my eye off it, but particularly the next month, I've got to make sure that I'm bunkering down, and that's my first priority at this club. It's to make sure that the defence is strong, and I wouldn't say I've taken my eye off the ball, but I've certainly made a conscious effort. The last 3 weeks haven't been acceptable.
Yeah, and because that's the thing with the Stormers, isn't it? They can. Your defence needs to be spot on Sunday.
Yeah, and we've got a big 3 week, Paul. Like this week's really important for us to qualify. We've got La Rochelle away, who obviously had a good win on the weekend.
Yeah, 66-0.
Yeah, and then we finished the block at the Stoop against Leicester. So we've got 2 home games out of 3 that we want to put performances out there that our supporters and our football team are proud of. So I see a lot of good opportunity in the next 3 weeks if we can get it right.
Yeah, and lastly from me, Jason, is it new competition next couple of weeks, Champions Cup? Does that almost come as a relief after the Premier new tournament, one where you've got a good chance of making the last 16, a good time for a reset? Yeah,
definitely. We had that chat with the boys this morning, just in terms of where we're sitting on the ladder with that, what we need to do to qualify. Our boys generally love playing in Europe. They've got good experience and good evidence that they play well, and it's going to be a hell of a game. Like the Stormers are one of the form teams, obviously going around at the moment. But the boys are really excited, Paul, to rip in this weekend.
Yeah, of course, for your England players, I know they had a win in yesterday, didn't they? But it's a big time for them as well, Jason, isn't it? Because it's club form is so important in selection for Six Nations.
Yeah, it is, and everyone's aware of that. The beauty with our boys is they're really focusing on, honing in on Quins, and if they do that, then obviously the England stuff comes off the back of it. So our boys have been brilliant with it, but it'd just be nice for us to support them, with their ambitions with England as well, to put out some good performances.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Go well Sunday, Jason.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.